Welcome to Yeshiva Daf. Shir sponsor Lu'nishmas Ambiak Shalom and Labas Yitzchok. We're holding Bava Metzia Daf Gimel. This is a recording of the shir that was already given live on Shabbos. We're going to start in a few lines down on Amud Aleph, the sixth line. The Gemara went on and said, that's what we concluded the previous Daf. The Gemara concluded and said, what is the shvuah that we have when two people have to divide one talis? It's a special takana chachamim. So now everybody's going to go and jump into a talis of his friend and say, this is mine. So therefore chachamim say, you have two people holding on to a talis, each one says it's mine, each one has to do a shvuah. That's how we ended the previous daf. Now, just to mention, this is a special hagdama for this daf as well. We learned in the previous daf that there's a machlekes Rashi and Tosfos. What happens when we know that both parties are lying? Both parties are not saying the truth. We're going to see in today's daf that when we talk about the two cases that the Gemara was mami the Mishnah, either a Metzia, they both found this talis in the street, or Mekach Memkar, they both claim they purchased this item. So then it could be they both are saying the truth. Maybe they both found it. Maybe they both paid for it, as we learned previous daf. But what happens if it's clear that they're lying? For example, they're both saying araktia. They both say we weaved it. One of them is lying. One of them did not do it. So there Rashi said, then there we don't do shvuah. But we'll do as we learn in this daf, yemunach chavoy liyo. We let the money sit until the Yon Novi comes. Tosfos says, no, you do shvuos in that case. So now the Gemara is saying that what was the takana of chachamim? That people should not go and jump and take a talis of their friend. So this is one hill. According to Tosfos, that this case is always applicable. Anytime two people argue and say this is mine or this is mine, doesn't matter what's the case. Doesn't matter if they're saying the one said I purchased it and one said I sold it, one said I got it as a Yerusha. Doesn't matter what you're saying. You always have a shvuah. So the losh of the Gemara makes sense. But according to Rashi, that there's only two cases where you have a shvuah. Metzia and Mekach Memkar. So then, and the cases that we have, when the Gemara comes and says, we do it at the corner because we don't want everybody to jump and take away someone who belongs to their friend. What do you mean? How many cases do we have that two people paid for the same item? Or two people found an item in the street? So this losh, according to Rashi, is a little harder. Okay, so the Gemara, Lema Mastisin the Loik Rabbi Yossi. So now, says the Gemara, Chora Mishnah is like Rabbi Yossi. The Mishnah that said Yachloiku, take a talis and divide it between the two. It's not like Rabbi Yossi. The Rabbi Yossi, all mine, kin my hiv sida ramai. Where's Rabbi Yossi talking about? Rabbi Yossi says, when you have two people, called Reuven and Shimon, they deposited money by Levi. One deposited $200, one deposited $100, but you don't know who did what. So Levi right now has $300. He doesn't know who has the 100, who has the 200. So Chachamim say, what should you do? You should give Reuven 100. There's no dispute about that. Give Shimon 100. Again, no dispute about that. And the rest you'll divide. And then the rest, Yemunach Chavolio. That's what Chachamim say. Comes up Yossi and says, no. But then the Ramai, someone who's a cheater, someone who's a liar, he has nothing to lose. He knows he's going to get his 100 back. He says, you know what, maybe I'll try to get another 100. So he lies about it, he gets another 100. So says Rabbi Yossi, I want to make sure that someone who's lying knows he has what to lose. So if you have a dispute about these 300, you don't know which one has what, we don't give anything to anybody. So whoever is lying is losing his 100. That's what Rabbi Yossi says. So, so says the Gemara, the same thing. Choribis doesn't work with our Mishnah. In our Mishnah, we said, Yachleiko. You don't say the money will be left there until the Yon Novi comes. Same way, the my Rabban. You want to tell me it's Rabbanon? Kevan dam Rabbanon shayim unev chavol yo. What do Rabbanon say there? 100 you give to Reuven. 100 you give to Shimon. The last 100 yemunach. You wait till the Yon Novi. Hanami kishar domi this case. Also here by talis, it's like the shire. I don't know which one. The first 100 they give Reuven in that case, and the second 100 you give Shimon. There's no dispute about it. The third 100 is where you have a dispute. That's exactly like our talis. So the Muhammad. You want to tell me it's a bonon. There, one of them is for sure lying. Because you have 300. 100 belongs to Reuben, 100 belongs to Shimon. The third 100 belongs either to Reuben or to Shimon, not to both. I don't know what to do with it. But here it could be belongs to both. As the Gemara is going to explain in a moment. It could be they both found it. So Amir Rabbanan Palagim Shul. That's why you say you do a shul. So Rabbanan makes sense. People want to say Akut Rabbi Hashto Ma also the Bevandai Ikamon Lamar. In the year, each one has 100 for sure belongs to them. Reuben has 100 belongs to him, and Shimon belongs to him. You have to wait till Yonovi comes. I'm not gonna let anybody get any money. But here, that it's possible that one of them is completely lying. That no part of the talus belongs to any one of them. So like Koshik and then what? That you should not give it to them with shvur, but you should wait till Yonovi comes. Says the Gemara, I feel it in Rabbi. Even want to say it's very easy. Hosom vadai ikaramai. That's what we mentioned at the beginning as we started. There, one is lying. There's no question about it. Who said this someone was lying? That's what we said. Maybe they both found it. They'd be picked up at the same time. So that was number one. So the Gemara says it's possible in our case. They're not lying. In the previous one we learned, they both gave money. They both bought it. It's possible. So now that we're saying that one of them we're trying to find out which one it is, because it's possible it's both yachlik. But there, in the case of the pikadon, Reuben gave 100, Shimon gave 100. There's another 100 one of them gave. Now the other one, whoever says he gave it, what if they both say they gave it? One of them is lying. If one of them is lying, you can't. That's what we say in Munachat Shavar Liyo. And in Kurdabesi, that applies also to the first 100 of Reuben, first 100 of Shimon. That's what I'm showing the Gemara. Inami, also konis l'Rabbeisi l'Rama. The Rabbeisi is konis l'Rama. Why? In order for him to be minded. There's an effect. I'm going to say, do not give anything to anyone. One of them is lying. It's either Reuven or Shimon. Whoever it is, when he sees he's not getting anything, maybe he's going to admit. But here, where he's not losing anything. Why is he not losing anything? So one addresses right away. Metzia, he found the Metzia in the street. So he says, worst case, I won't get anything. Says, well, Tenech Metzia, it's very good by Metzia. But we said our Mishnah talk about Mekach and Mekach too. I mean, they both gave money. So he's losing at least the opportunity to get the chayfetz. So the more the machvar took the shiri mikar. So to go back to the original answer, that's not because that there's nothing to lose by us. But the reason is because we for sure have a rabbi over here. Now this goes back to the Rashi Tosfos we mentioned. Because Rashi learns from our sugya, and that's some of the other Rishonim learn, that if you know that someone's a rabbi, we don't say achleiku. That's a Rashi in the previous daf, the the end of the Omut, he said, one said I weaved it, the other one said I weaved it. You can't divide it. One of them is a Rama. How does Rashi know that? That if he's a Rama, you don't divide it? Or Gemara. A Gemara says a Rama. If you have a Rama, you don't do it. How will Tosfos learn? So Tosfos the Shittas is very good. We mentioned in the previous daf. Tosfos the base of daf learns that when each one is holding on to half, I'm saying, as Gemara is going to say in a moment, when each one is holding on to half, it's considered to be that each one is a muhzak. Each one has a chazak. If each one has a chazak over here, so there's another condition that comes in. What's the condition? And that's what Tosfos learns. Tosfos learns there's two conditions in order to echlek. A, each one has a chazaka. Each one is holding on to it. Each one is considered to be that he has half in his hand. As Tosis was mentioning before, you have Aran Sadeh, that each one owns half. And plus, Efsha, that what they're saying can be emes. Even if they're contradicting each other. But for Beis Din, they both can be emes. That's what Tosis says. Rashi says there's only one condition. Do we know that one of them is lying? Tosis L'Shitosah the holds, you look at the Chazakah, that's the difference between this case and the case of the three money. The three money, the Pikadon, the third money nobody's holding on to right now. So I don't know who it belongs to. Yemunach. But when they're holding on to the talis, that's the difference. That's one of the conditions you need to have in order to divide it. So what about the case of Chinvoni, says the Gemara? The case that we mentioned previous daf. So comes the Balabais and tells the Chinvoni, I want you to give chitim to my worker. And when you give it to him, I'll pay you. Comes the Chinvoni and says, I gave it to the worker. Comes the worker and says, I never got it. Each one is demanding money from Balabais. One of them is lying. So then we say each one of them is going to do a shvuah to the Balabais and take the money from Balabais. That's what the Gemara says over there. Says the Gemara, has also go because so each one says you take the money. They're both in line. I mean, they both cannot be true. One of them is lying. Why don't it say there? There's a dispute. The store taker says, the chivoni, the grocer says, I gave the chitin to the poil. The poil says, never took it. So there's a dispute. So take the money out. Says the Gemara, that in this case we for sure have a Rambam. And we also in the time is the Chinvoni Balabais. The Chinvoni tells the Balabais, I'm your shliach. You send me to give the wheat to the worker. What do you want me to? I'm nothing to do with the socher. Even though the socher is doing a shvuah, I don't trust him for shvuah. You trust him. Why? Or you made me trust him. In other words, by giving him the chitin. You didn't tell me with Edim. Havli. You didn't tell me. I read it wrong. You didn't tell me to give it with Edim. So you told me to give it to him. I don't know what Chishbon is. I gave it to him. Now you're saying he's saying sure he never got it. I have nothing to do with this guy. I have to do with you, Balabais. Similarly, the Socher. Socher now, the worker tells the Balabais, I worked by you. What do I have with the Chivoni? Even though he's swearing, giving an oath, and I don't trust him. Here, they both take the Balabais. What does the Gemara say? The Gemara says, and this is a big chiluk, Gabi Toy Minita. Goes, the Balabais told the Chivoni, give the worker food. Bava says, I gave it to him. The worker says, I never got it. He says, the shvu, I never got it. Says the Chinvoni, I have nothing to do with the poil. You never told me to check the poil or have aiding to the poil. You told me to give him the food. My dealing is with you. And this is a rule going toyen vinita. Whenever we have a case, in special dini moments, basically you're not coming to check the Metzias, to check reality. I want to know what really happened over here. Let's have an investigation. Let's have a committee that checks it. That's not the case. Beis Din, what they do is they address a tviyah of a toyin mita. You have a plaintiff and you have a defendant. That's what we're dealing with. So in the case of Chivoni says, I have nothing to do with the worker. I'm not going after the worker. I don't know who the worker is. I don't even know his name. I'm dealing with you, Balabais. You told me to give him wheat. Give me my money. The fact that the Balabais is dealing with the worker has nothing to do with the Chivoni. Hi, baby, if you want to be mevar the truth, if you take all three cases together, you'll be able to mevar the truth. Beis Din not coming to mevar the truth. Beis Din are dealing with Toyin V'Nita. This is really what the Gemara is telling us over here. So that's why the Chiboni and the Poyel both say, I have nothing to do, this thing has nothing to do with me. So that's why there, each one has a time Balabais, he gets his money, And you don't say Emunah Chavar Liyo. Says Motani B'chiyah. B'chiyah says something. What does he say? So we learned, the Gemara is going to mention in a moment. We learned the Bava Kama. Reuven comes to Shimon and tells Shimon, you owe me $100. Says Shimon, I owe you only 50. So what do we do? You have a shvua on the rest. Says the Gemara, what happens if Shimon did not admit 50? He was not moed b'miktas. But we know that he owes the 50. How? You have 80. So that's the Gemara addresses. Comes over to Shimon, you owe me money. Says Shimon, no, that's not true. I owe 0. The Eidim say, no, you have 50. So then the Shimon has to pay Reuven 50 because the Eidim said he owes it. He needs to do shvu on the rest. Why should you have to do shvu on the rest? It can't be that when he admits 50, you have to do shvu on 50. But when the Eidim make him say it's 50, he won't have to do shvu on the other 50. So the Gemara says the Gemara is going to explain in a moment. We have a Mishnah, a Tana that says like this idea. Or Mishnah. 2 people holding a talis. The whole case. The top is because they're holding on to it. And then Sunday divided top is high, my top is high, this sounds so much like Tesis. We are on a Sunday, each one, whatever he's holding on to, that's his. Whatever he's holding on to is his. So if Reuven and Shimon are holding on to talis, I hold the Reuven he owns part of it, Shimon owns part of it. My top is high, my top is high. We mentioned previously that the Rosh learns a little differently. The Rosh learns that whatever they're holding on to, they consider to be holding the entire talis. This Lashon sounds more like Tesis. Each one is holding half. As Tesis Lashon is, each one has half. That's what he's saying. Similar to the Gemara over here. So the Gemara says, we see Reuven and Shimon holding on to the talis. We're assuming that each one owns half. V'ktani Yeshiva, you still have to do a shvua. So you see, even though you have 18, you still do a shvua. And right now, we understand what's the similarity. By here, the 18 say you owe 50, you say the other 50. We have 18, you have 50, you still have to do shvua on the rest. Here I have 18, the 50 belongs to you, you have to do shvua. So the more, my shvua take those people, what does it mean? That they can't be that is the mission will be greater than what they're saying in Mikavacher. What are we trying to avoid? When he himself admits, the Torah says you have to do shvua. Why? So we learn Bava Kama because of Rabba's psychological analysis. Why did the Torah say that a person who admits partial he has to do shvua? Person doesn't have the guts, the ha'ozo, he's not brazen to deny in front of the Baal Chayv. He wants to deny the whole thing because he doesn't have money to pay right now. Why is he not denying it? He doesn't have the chutzpah to come and say to the Baal Chayv that I don't know you. He says they want to have given old base. He really wants to admit the whole thing because he doesn't have the guts. Why is he not admitting the whole thing? He's trying to get to buy some time. So that the Havali Zuzu pardon until I have money, I'll pay him back. So meaning we have a svara, a person who's denying half and admitting half, he probably owns the whole thing. Why is he not saying the whole thing? He doesn't have the chutzpah to say it. To say a little bit, he does. Why doesn't? So therefore, we force it to do a shvua. More sense. Put a shvua on him. He'll be admit the whole thing. That's what we say over there. Just two nikudas over here, just to mention. Number one is, what's the svara? What's the idea that a person doesn't have chutzpah? It's a machlekes Rishonim. Rashi Bava Kama learns that the chutzpah is that you cannot deny something for someone who did for you a favor. Someone did for you a favor, he helped you when you're in time of need. You're going to go in front of him and deny what he did? That person doesn't have the guts to do. But if he didn't do a favor, no. So according to Rashi, only Ba'alva, the lender, did a favor to the borrower. But like Pikadon, when someone deposits something with somebody else, who's doing a favor to? The Shomer is doing a favor. So there you don't say that Odom might raise Banav. But in other Rishonim, in Rashi, in other places, the prat is that the person cannot deny something in front of somebody who knows the truth. If the borrower or the shomer knows that the person who put it by him knows the truth, he can't lie in front of him. So that doesn't have to do with someone did him a favor. So Mechillas Rishonim has to do it with a favor the person did, or in general, nobody wants to lie in front of somebody else. Now, when the Gemara asks, why did the Torah say? What would be the other tzad? Rashi learns that the tzad is it's considered to be Meisha Aveda. You coming to be tying against me? I could have been quiet. You told me I owe you $100. I could have said nothing. I admit I owe 50. So I Meisha Aveda. So you have to come to the svar. The Torah said, no, he's probably lying. Torah says he has a migoy. Migoy that it could have told you that I deny the whole thing. Believe me when I say that I only owe 50. And we have to explain why don't we say migoy in this case. And there's a lot of details regarding this machlekes. Let's leave this as a maramok. Anyway, what is more saying? That svara exists only when a person admits half. But here the person did not admit half. The Eidim said he owes 50. So you don't have that svara anymore. So that's the one says all those Eidim delay klimer malchi. By Eidim you don't have that svara. Aim Eloi, mi be'eron tzishvo. Kamashon kavochemer. There are the kavochemer. Kavochemer says you're right. The svara doesn't apply. But I still have one of the Yudgimel Midrash Yatron Yudashim is Kavochemer. I can't say that when a person on his own he has to have a shvur, so by Eidim he also have a shvur. Says well, my Kavochemer. What is the Kavochemer? Ma piv shein michay b'mor michay b'shvur. Eidim shevachim to mom and Eidim shevachim to shvur. His own mouth, when he speaks, he's not michay moment to himself. When he admits he's not michay moment, the woman's going to address it. What do you mean? But he's michay shvur to himself. When he admits 50, anything that can make a person michay moment, of course, michay shvur. Says the Gemara, upine michay moment. What do you mean? Of course, a person is michay moment. But those balding can be aidim dummy. Person admits, of course, those balding can be aidim dummy. Just something interesting here. Rashi says, what's a those balding can be aidim dummy? Says Rashi, something which is very interesting. I never realized that until learning this daf today. Rashi says, Rashi gives the Amayim Mokam because of Mesorah Sashas. Where is this? How do we know that a person who's moide is like 180? It's a Tosefta. It's a moment that the Rashi just bring a Amayim Mokam to understand why. This is a rebel. So the Gemara says, of course, a person can admit money. Or those money can be aidim. So what we mean to say my mom in knas. Knas. A person on his own is not chayav knas. Ma piv shem chayav knas. On his own he can't chayav knas because ain't adam chayav knas in batzman. Me chayav shvu is das shvu. Eidim shu chayav musu knas. Eidim shu chayav musu shvu. Eidim that say they chayav knas of course they chayav shvu. So you have a couple of so more amal piv shkem chayav korban. But a person can admit he needs to be a korban to be something. She'd say I ate chaylev after being a korban. Turn be'edim she'im mechayim nusakorban. Edim can't mechayim korban. Because korban, a person, if the word now understands, if Edim come and say to a person, you ate chaylev, he said, never ate chaylev. It doesn't mean a korban to be some English. Same more alokasha. Rabbi Chiyah ke'amer sviolei doma edim mechayim nusakorban kavochemer. He holds like Rabbi Meir. The Rabbi Meir says that Edim could cause a person to bring a korban. Now it says in the Mishnah, two Eidim said to somebody, you ate fat, you ate the chaylev, which is also. He says, I didn't eat. The Mary says, you're chayav. The Choyim would say, butter. If you stand in Misa Chamur, if two can cause him to die, if you will be korban akal, of course they'll be chayav korban. So Rabbi would say that an Eidim can't be chayav korban, a person says he's not chayav. But Rabbi says you could. So that's our case over here. You don't have a claim, you don't have a pirchal. So the Kavachem. So the one goes on and says, my mute, so my amazing is he butter. We're going to argue with me because they say By a korban, there's a way out of it. If Eidim come and say, you ate chelev, he can say, I never ate chelev. But he also can say, no, I ate chelev, but I did it amazing. I did it intentionally. So then I'm not going to have a korban. So he's not denying the Eidim by saying that. Something more, so more is another pircha. Another pircha, she can be chayv or yoshom. Oshom is different. More understands that Oshom you can't do by Eidim. So that's not true. Oshom ain't a korban. The same like korban. If you hold a korban, then Eidim can be chayv a person korban. They can also be chayv a person Oshom. Second one, the mala piv she can be chayv a choymesh. Piv is different because it causes him to be chayv a choymesh. A choymesh we learned in Bava. And the more understands that a simple idea. That a person says, a person is ashamed. And he says that, comes the owner and says, where's my chayfetz? Says it got stolen. So, and then he admits, and he does a shvur, he admits, has to be carried b'chaymesh to be the principal, plus another 25%. One understands 25% he can do only on his own, not if someone is made in him, as we learned in Bava Kama. So then we know, here is different. Halakasha, b'chayka, meir sirli. Meir holds like a meir. We hold like a meir. Kiechni mechayev the korban kavachaymer. The same way Meir holds that Eidim can make him a chayav korban, because Eidim can mechayev everything. So mechayev the choymesh v'kavachaymer. So those mechayev choymesh kavachaymer. So the Gemara says that's not a problem. Right now I have no problem. We learn kavachaymer. There's no pircha. El sadik mal ma'apiv shekin einu b'akchosho v'azomo. Turn be'eidim shishnu b'akchosho v'azomo. So that's the problem. When a person comes and says that he's chayav, nobody can take it away from him. Right? If he admits that he's chayav, the Eidim can take it away. Nobody can come and say you're lying. And the Rishonim point out, what about a korban? Can a person be chayav a korban on himself when the Eidim deny it? Because how could the Koyanim go and be makiv a korban that the Eidim deny? So that's a separate discussion. But Eidim HaKosher HaZom, if two Eidim come and say that you're chayav, and two Eidim say you're patur, there's a kosher of it. You don't trust the first Eidim. Same way you're right. So to learn from Piv, you have a problem. Here's the Pircha. The Pircha is you can't learn Kavachaymer, because Piv is Mechayim more, there's no Kosher Vazam. So you can't learn Kavachaymer to Eidim. And that's why Piv you have Shvur, not the Eidim you have Shvur. Same way La'asim Meid Echad. So for Meid Echad. Ma'ad Echad 1/8. Shein Mechayim 1 Mechayim Shvur. 1/8 says, because it says Reuben owes money. He doesn't have to pay, he has to do a Shvur. So the Eid Echad, it brings a person to do a Shvur. Eidim sheyachavim u'samom, and Eidim do cost over to chayv moment. Eidim sheyachavim u'sashvuz, of course, they're chayv shvur. So there's a big difference. Ma'al Eid Echad shekid al mashu meidu nishbo. The Eid Echad comes and says, Reuben, you owe money. So Reuben says, I don't. Reuben does a shvur on the Eidus of the Eid. Whatever the Eid testified, on there he does a shvur. So there's one Davdal and Dalev, Toyer be'Eidim she'al mashu kofro nishbo. By Eidim, the Eidim say $50 you owe, that he pays. There's another $50. So that does shvur. The Eidim never testified about that. So how can you learn from Eid Echad where you testify, where you do a shvur on the testimony of the Eid, to do to Eidim, you do shvur on what the Eidim did not testify. So they want to know, Papa also made Gilgul shvur the Eid Echad. What's Gilgul shvur the Eid Echad? If a person comes, says, Reuben, you owe money. So he has to do a shvur. There's another shvur that a person owes from before. You make him do a shvur on another thing. You pile up all the shvurs that you can do. Right? If there was another shvur that you had on him, Migal gave that other shvur. So that the Eid Echad did not testify. The Eid Echad testified in this case. You do shvur on him, then Migal gives something else. So you see over here that the Eid Echad could cause someone to do shvur for something else. Similar to 280, and they're causing him to do shvur on the other 50. Says the Gemara, Mali Gilgul shvur the Eid Echad, she can shvur geres shvur. Turn be'edim the moment kamichayvi. So I'll tell you the difference. By Eid Echad, he's causing to do a shvur. Once you do one shvur, I do another shvur. But here, they're not bringing him to do shvur. They're bringing him to pay for $50. And now you want to create a new shvur on the other 50. Now we don't have a source. So what did we learn until now? We're trying to learn kavachaymer from Piv. If a person, when he admits 50, has to do shvur on the rest, kol sheken, the 280 that make him high 50, he does shvur on the rest. So now I go to pircha. Not a good kavachaymer. There's a pircha. Piv there's no kosher v'azama. You can't deny what he's saying. So that's why maybe he's mechayev more. So let's learn from Eid Echad. Eid Echad is mechayev shvur. So when you have the Shavuos and what we testified, Gilgul Shavuot, that's because of a Shavuot. So right now, we try to learn from P, try to learn Meidechel, we can't. In the next daf, we're going to learn, the ones who try to learn from the combination of both of the Echad and Piv. One in order to end up with is that we should already pointed in the Sugya. We had a Svara. The Svara was that when a person admits, that's when you have the Svara to Mechayim Shvuah. He's trying to run away. He wants to deny the whole thing. He wants to admit the whole thing. He doesn't have the chutzpah. By Eidim, you don't have that. But still, we say Kavachim comes and takes it away. So how do we understand this? The way we understand it is, we have a big machlekes. Do we dash a time in the Korah, not dash a time in the Korah? Even if you don't dash a time in the Korah, you can take the time of the Torah to define the mitzvah. The Torah tells you that when you mitzvah a time in Yeshiva. What does that mean? We can explain what the Torah is telling me. But if Avakav takes it away, that tells me that I don't care what you explain. The explanation will not define the mitzvah. The explanation can tell you my understanding of the mitzvah. But once the Torah gives me another source, so then I can't come and dash a time in the Korah and take away from the Kavachim that the Torah gives me. So Kavachim is a way that Torah teaches me something. If I have a Kavachim, even though my Svara says differently, Svaras don't change the understanding in the Torah. Okay, we'll stop over here. Be'ez Hashem, continue tomorrow with the next half.